Hey everybody, this is the second lecture that you need to watch for if you're at home for the days that you're not doing the dissection. These notes come out of our heart muscle packet, our heart packet, not a heart muscle packet. We're talking about heart muscle today. But looking at, how heart muscle fibers individually are very different from other types of muscle fibers. We've already looked at them a little bit, but we're going to look at some of the bigger differences that makes heart muscle so unique. And we're going to go through and we're going to label some of these. This is the nucleus. This is something called an intercalated disc. I don't know why my pen is being so annoying. Might be time to change the tip again. And this whole thing is just a cardiac muscle cell. And so I'm just going to go through and I'm going to label some of these, and then I'm going to talk about why these differences are so important. These are called gap junctions, and these are called desmosomes. All right. Now, when we look at the overall shape of a cardiac muscle cell, which we can label right here, these muscle cells are Y-shaped, or they're branched shaped. This is their general shape, is that they're Y-shaped. And they share various characteristics with other muscle cells in terms of skeletal muscle cells, in that they are striated with sarcomeres. And they have the same language where you have like the Z disc and the I band and A band, but I'm not going to worry about too much labeling those. One major difference is that there's usually only one nucleus per cell, sometimes two. But another big difference is that there are actually way more mitochondria in muscle cells found in the heart than there are muscle cells found everywhere else. In fact, if you look at the image up above, you can just see how many mitochondria there are. So, when we look at unique characteristics of heart muscle cell, unique characteristics of cardiac muscle, the very first one we're going to look at is we're going to look at the fact that they have mitochondria are very concentrated. And that's like a good thing. The reason why is we can provide all the ATP that is needed for contraction. It would be a bad thing if your heart didn't have any ATP, because then it wouldn't be able to contract. So with lots of mitochondria, we produce all the ATP that we need. The second characteristic that we've already talked about is that there is only one or two nuclei versus in a skeletal muscle cell, those are multinucleated. So this is in skeletal muscle, and this is in cardiac muscle. And then the next biggest difference are some vocabulary terms that I've given you up above. And that's with gap junctions and desmosomes. And we're first going to talk about desmosomes. Desmosomes. What desmosomes are they are cell junctions. And they're a very specific type of cell junction. A cell junction is where two cells touch. And desmosomes help hold cardiac muscle cells together. And the reason why this is so important is we certainly wouldn't want a tear in your heart muscle. Imagine if one heart muscle cell contracted so tightly that it tore away from other heart muscle cells. That would be very bad. So these are tight junctions that keep the cells stuck together. And that is very, very, very important. And then what we have these are these things called gap junctions. And gap junctions are like pores between the cells, the cardiac muscle cells, that allow for calcium ions to pass through. Remember the role that calcium ions play in contraction. They allow for the tropomyosin to move out of the way so that the myosin heads can bind to the actin filaments. Well, what this allows for, that allows for calcium ions to pass through, is this allows for the heart to contract as a unit. Because if one muscle cell, cardiac muscle cell, gets stimulated, then all the surrounding ones do as well. Because those calcium ions can pass through those gap junctions and cause heart muscle contraction. And that is a very good thing. Those are the major differences between cardiac muscle and skeletal muscle, and you can see some of them here. The intercalated disc, which is one vocabulary term that I didn't talk about, is just the junction between muscle cells. So there's nothing special about it. Intercalated disc is just the junction between heart muscle cells, and you can see it there. That's it for this lecture. We're just doing this one page. Next class, we're going to talk about the electrical conduction system of the heart, and we can, look at what a heart wave looks like. We'll look at actually my heart wave. I had a EKG done. And we'll talk about, how this varies and what goes on with them. After you watch these two videos, make it a point to go work on your case study so you can get that out of the way. For those of you that are in person, I look forward to dissection. And that's it for today.